Hello and welcome to Higher Ed Live, the live weekly web show all about the world of higher education. We're all about digital development and professional empowerment. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I am your host, Seth Odell. We got a little bit of a few tech issues early on, so I appreciate you guys bearing with us. You know, a show about video, run into some video issues. That's going to happen. We got two special guests on today, doing the whole show through Google Plus, sort of a bit different. So if you guys are experiencing any audio issues or tech issues whatsoever, please understand this is a new setup for me. And just tweet with the hashtag just like you would with questions or comments or anything else, and we'll do our best to bring you the highest caliber video as well as the highest caliber content as well. So before we dive in to the show with our guests, I want to quickly go over the weekly 5. And before I want to do that, well, I just want to thank the sponsors that make this show possible. So Higher Ed Live is sponsored by the guys at Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook, a private Facebook community to boost enrollment and retention. You can check out their latest white paper on how schools are preparing for the mobile revolution 2012. That link just went right out. We're also sponsored by Omni Update, the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus, well, it's secure, it's scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. In fact, it was the highest ranked CMS in the customer satisfaction eDo Guru survey. So if you guys want a CMS, you know you got to look at Omni Update before you do anything else. And finally, we are also sponsored by the awesome team over at Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and earning points. Check out how LSU used Scavenger to engage their fans in New Orleans, doing challenges, earning points, doing all sorts of cool stuff, all leading up to the BCS championship game with Alabama. It's pretty cool. We got a link going out to that. Guys, check that out. And that's the thanks for our sponsors. On to the weekly 5 stories from around the world of higher education worth noting, reading, thinking about, kind of just putting back on the docket and making sure you get to it. Well, first off, guys, I hate to do it, but I got to give a little personal plug over to Admissions Live. Launched for the first time this week. Tuesday was the first show ever. We're really excited here at Higher Ed Live to have another program here to bring you high caliber, engaging, fun content. If you missed the show, definitely check it out. Ashley Hennigan, the new host, killed it. And guys, if you have any ideas on what you want to see her cover, or for that matter, me, just let us know because we are here to work for you. Coming up second is the 2012 State of the Mobile Web Report. It's being conducted once again by College Web Editor and Corinne Jolie. If you guys have not yet, get over there and complete that survey. We have to share data together, guys, so we can help leverage that data to make smarter decisions. So it's always great when people put surveys together. Do your homework, get over there, do a quick favor. This is the one good deed of the day, and participate in that study while you still can. Coming up next, I thought was a really interesting article from, we got to skip one more over the next. It was a study for 4 textbooks distribution models. Because the reality is there's a lot of new talk about e-textbooks. We talked about it before. We even talked about it last week. Well, there's a lot of cool things going on, and there's a really great study. It's detailed, but I promise you, if you're into the e-textbook game, read it. It's all about different distribution models, and what it finds is, get this, students don't really want e-textbooks. That's right. They don't really want them. So the question is, who wants e-textbooks? And maybe if the students don't want them, is it because they want traditional textbooks, or is it because e-textbooks do not deliver an innovative enough experience on top of what they have to make them want it instead? So right now, students apparently want traditional textbooks, at least according to this study. And finally, it's an interesting conversation going on online about Pinterest. It's I don't know if you guys have seen the site. This is a couple articles that we're going to be linking to. The first one is a great article in the K Social Media blog about whether Pinterest is on your radar. It's from the great folks it's from Mayan over at Oberlin. She's great, doing great stuff, talking about how she really likes it. Now, interestingly, Pinterest is a new site, lets you kind of tag and share information, kind of track your interests visually. And interestingly, I was just last night in a conversation with Kyle Judah from RecoVend all about why he thinks Pinterest is going to be the next big thing. But just as we say that, Michael Feenan over at eDo Guru puts out a post today that I'm also linking to that says, hold your horses, it's not worth your time. So all I'm going to say, guys, is Pinterest is the conversation of the week, obviously. I'm also going to be sending out a link, which is a collection of all higher ed Pinterests curated by Case. If you haven't seen that, check that out. And guys, weigh in because this is a conversation going on multiple blogs, multiple places. Does Pinterest matter or not? I'll leave that up to you, but no question, it is the topic going on this week. And finally, the unsolicited shout out of the week. Shouting out any person, place, thing, or idea. Why? Because it's my show and I can. That's the beauty of having your own show. So, what is getting the unsolicited shout out of the week this week? This week's unsolicited shout out goes to each and every individual who ever posts a video tutorial online. And I'll tell you why. When you hear today's conversation talking about video production 101, we're going to be talking all about things you can do, but this is just the beginning, guys. This is a great intro show to get you guys comfortable with video, but beyond that, go to YouTube, go to Google, search. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of awesome tutorial videos. I taught myself how to edit on Final Cut Pro exclusively from YouTube videos. It can be done. So to all the people that do the hard work to share information and to share it for free, to reduce that barrier for entry, I salute all of you and give you an unsolicited shout out, because knowledge sharing is a pretty cool thing. And at least in the video world, which you'll learn today, there's a lot of it. A lot of people in video production work together to share information, and that is pretty cool. So with that, guys, let's get in and let's make this show happen. I am so excited to do Video Production 101. Funny enough, it's taken this long for me to tackle this topic, something that is really in my backyard. I don't know why. I guess I've been leaving it off for a little while. But to do it, well, I couldn't do it alone. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guests. And again, if we have any audio issues, you let me know, because again, we're trying out a new setup here. So the first guest is Travis Ballstadt, from Digital Media Coordinator at Iowa State University. He's got 20 years video production experience from corporate video, live DVDs, all over the board. And the next is another familiar face, Jenkins, video manager Xavier. This guy's got a ton of experience, and like me, he's got some news background in him. So you gotta love TV news guys. I gotta always have a soft spot for them for me. So I'm gonna go ahead.
I also started in news.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Travis, it's great to know. So we are all a bunch of video guys from news. I'm excited to have this conversation. This is Travis here, and I'm pulling up Cliff for you guys to take a look. So Cliff, give a wave real quick.
Hello, hello.
Hope you guys are hearing everybody okay. So guys, this is Video Production 101. Again, we got multiple guests on thanks to the power of Google+. And I'm excited to talk. I'm also really pumped that we're all TV news guys. So where do we dive in? I think the reality is, and I'm just going to intro this briefly before I toss it back to you guys, is that video has been, of all things, one of the most exciting industries to see change in the past 5 to 10 years. And the reason is the barrier to entry has been so dramatically reduced. There was a time when you needed to have thousands of dollars of cameras. I mean, as we all know, being former TV news guys, I mean, you have millions of dollars in equipment lying around. And nowadays, people can just use an iPhone and produce some pretty amazing caliber content. So that's changed a lot. And for myself, even, I did edit video in college. I worked in TV news. I was an assignment editor, actually. So I was on the desk kind of calling the shots, what stories we're going to cover.
Poor guy.
I know, yeah. That's the Cliff and Travis know that job.
Everyone hated you. Everybody
hates the assignment editor, because the assignment editor in TV news is the guy who decides what stories to cover, kind of manages the crews, and he's the one that tells the photogs that are already running all over the place that they got to skip dinner again to go pick up an extra story about some chicken that got loose at a farm and ran across the highway, and everybody hates you. Anyways,
right.
So that being said, I didn't have a lot of hands-on digital editing experience until I got to UCLA in California, taught myself to edit with Final Cut, and that's the beauty, is you could do it so much easier. The barrier to entry is so low. So this is an interesting time for video, and that's why I'm happy that you guys are watching Video Production 101, because the reality is this show is for you whether you've ever picked up a camera before, ever. Anyone can do this. And what we're talking about today is the fundamentals. We're talking about hardware, so what do you need for cameras, laptops, software, what are you going to edit on, and then we're talking about techniques, tips, and tricks, and what we want to do is just introduce you to this today, get you guys a little bit comfortable so you can go out, get your feet wet, have some fun, and produce some video. I promise you, you can do this. You can. So with that, I'm going to dive right in. And Travis and Cliff, tossing this to both of you guys. Let's talk, I guess hardware first. When it comes to cameras, at this point, is there a barrier for cameras? It seems you can do stuff with a flip cam these days for colleges even.
I shot a video earlier this week, the Dean's Welcome Back for the spring semester video. I filmed it entirely with my iPhone. I vary what camera I use depending on the project, and I think camera production quality can have a big effect on authenticity. I'm using the camera built into my MacBook Air right now for this show. That's another option that people have everywhere. You can really do a video just like this.
Yeah, and that's the same thing here. Is we have we've shot on iPhones. We've taken student videos on iPhones. We've sent people out with a little prosumer camcorder handheld jobs that run on tape or a hard disk. We in the office have just purchased 2 GoPro cameras. Actually, at one of Xavier's basketball games last night, Fox Sports Net used these for their broadcast. They had them plugged into the side, sitting up behind the backboard for a rim shot, and it was awesome. And so we go from that all the way up to my broadcast quality, 3-point broadcast quality camera here, so I can, shoot sports with the power zoom and whatnot here. So, it's all about workflow, man. It's all about authenticity.
I love it. I couldn't agree more, guys. And that's the kind of thing I want to make sure people know today. If you're watching, it's okay to use iPhones. Here you're talking about guys here that are professional videographers, some of the best in higher ed, period, if you've seen what they shoot. And they're talking about still using iPhones sometimes. And that, I think, is a really good point that Travis brings up, that it's about finding the right hardware for the right situation. So if all you have right now is a no-budget camera or something else, that's okay. And already we have a great question coming in, and it's saying, what are the key accessories recommended to help like iPhone video quality be better? So now I'm going to toss it to you guys. But my thought there are accessories out there to help you with your iPhone being better, but I think it's maybe just more about fundamentals, which is, utilizing natural light, keeping things stable. But what would you guys say? I'm going to take the question a little bit farther. One, do you have any accessories for iPhones that you'd recommend, or low-level cameras like that? And two, do you have any tips in general to be able to enhance the quality of that kind of video?
I would say this is the only accessory that I have for my iPhone right now. I get close enough to the person so I can hear them talk into the iPhone microphone. I don't have any external mic add-ons for the iPhone. And always you want to point them into the sunlight or natural light. If you look and you see that their face is dark and they've got light behind them, like I probably do right now because of my bald head, then that's probably not a good angle to have. So you want to get them with the light in their face, and preferably up under their eye, whatever this is, the ledge, the brow ledge here. So that's, for the iPhone, this is all I got.
I agree. I don't use any accessories with my iPhone. I just like he said, get close enough. The iPhone is one that also has a really good stabilization built into it, as opposed to some of the other budget cameras like that I've used and I've seen used, that just breathing or maintaining a heartbeat is going to send that thing shaking out of control. So the iPhone and the iPod Touch, honestly, are, in my opinion, a couple of the best entry-level cameras you got.
Totally agree. And then one point I'll add to this is there are some cool light accessories. I don't think you need the accessories. That's what you're hearing here, guys. It's about keeping things stable and lighting. As Cliff said, we're talking about lighting this whole time today. Is if you want great caliber video, it's about fundamentals. It's about understanding where the light is. I mean, it's hard for you guys to see now, but for instance, I'm sitting here in a conference room and I actually have a light facing directly at me. There are lights overhead, but if that light in front of me wasn't there, I'd be a little bit more in a shadow. It's simple things like that. Or the camera, the microphone on your iPhone, obviously, it's picking up audio all around you. So the closer that microphone is to your source versus people off to the sides, the better it's going to be. That said, there are some cool little tripods that fit for iPhones, and they're pretty cheap if you check Amazon. They're like Gorilla Pods. I know one of my coworkers here at SNHU, by the way, broadcasting live from Southern New Hampshire University each and every week. Thank you to them for always hosting us, so thanks to them. One of my coworkers, Adam here, has one of those Gorilla Pod tripods. It's bendable, it can clip to things, and it has a little clip where you can actually put your iPhone sideways to get a nice horizontal shot. Relatively affordable stuff here, but as far as accessories, I said just check, Amazon. If you're really going to use it, it would be cool to get a little tripod thing. I have a little clip for my flip camera, which I have as well. It's a little mini tripod. It's always good because if you can set that down, it's going to be a little bit better. So now that said, guys, let's talk about the next level up then. Beyond that, beyond the flip cameras too, which are basically it's the same thing as an iPhone, size-wise, relatively caliber. You get into the next level, and the basic thing I just want to make sure people understand is the difference between tape and hard drive. So once you're looking at lower level cameras, up until just a couple years ago, you'd be getting something that would be on a tape. So it's like a mini DV tape. You've probably seen these little tapes before. It's the most common. It records to tape now. But even more so now than ever, you're seeing cameras that record to the internal hard drive. So, right here's a tape-based camera. It clips, the tapes go in right there. But it's, again, this is now becoming less and less the norm. So my toss to you guys is looking at the, under, let's see how to say, I guess under the $1,000-ish range, the affordable entry point for people that were saying, let's step above the iPhone. What are your thoughts? Do you have a camera you'd recommend? Do you prefer hard drive cameras that record internally versus, a tape camera or anything else like that?
Yeah, I just looked up today actually on a review for some hard drive cameras. Canon makes some really good high definition 1920 by 1080 pixel. That's high res on a good codec. And that's about $500. So, it's really cheap. It's just about as much as an iPhone, and you probably get some telephoto flexibility on it as well.
Travis, what about you?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've got a favorite in that price range. I haven't researched enough recently, but I would say if you have an end goal, like my camera, I've got the Panasonic HMC 150. It's about a $3,000 camera. And after I got that here, there are some other departments wanting to buy a camera but had a lower budget. The big thing to look at is get something that's going to shoot the same resolution and frame rate as your main camera. And think about that if you have an end goal camera that you want to get in the next couple of years. Make sure that the two of them are going to shoot the same frame rate, the same resolution, so that you can use both cameras on the same shoot and intercut very easily.
Absolutely, and that's a really good point. And if some of you are listening and hearing these things, frame rates and things, you're a little bit concerned, don't be. The key is once you get that first camera to make a decision, you can talk to a lot of folks at camera shops, talk to people on campus, and things, and they'll help spell that stuff out for you. But I definitely agree. As far as the mid-levels for me, I'll say I still have a tape camera that I love, which is the Canon the Canon HV40. And the reason I like this is because it shoots to tape. If you guys watch Live Streaming 101, you know that the easiest way to live stream is using a tape camera, because then you can use what's called FireWire. We're not going to get into that today because this isn't Live Streaming 101. This is Video Production 101. But to keep in mind, if you want a really diverse camera, this shoots HD. It works for live streaming. It runs $600. It's the Canon HV40. That's a good entry. That said, I am lately in love with the camera I have at SNHU, which is the Canon XA10. Really new, really small and compact. And it just has a lot of features, really beautiful. And again, this one's about $2,000. So the thing is, you can do a lot of research. You can rent them. It's kind of up to you where you go. And we could talk offline and make more recommendations. So I just want you guys to know that it's not terribly important one versus the other. There's people that use Sony, use Panasonic, use Canon. So start with what you have and then have conversations about where you want to move to next.
And one other thing to add quick, when you're looking at these budget cameras, if you already have the software you're going to be using to edit them, go on those software user forums and search for the cameras that you're looking at and find out if anyone's having any specific camera-specific problems or format-specific problems, because there are a lot of different codecs used to record the video in compressed formats on these different cameras. And some of the lower-end cameras are not going to work with Final Cut Pro 7. They'll work fine with iMovie, but so before you spend your money on a camera that you're going to have problems with, make sure you research it in comparison with your software.
Definitely agree. Now, a great comment coming in on, by the way, the back channel, guys, today is on fire. We're trying to show what we can, but if you're not following it, follow hashtag HigherEdLive. Great comment comes in, says, people forgive lower quality video if you have high quality audio. Audio is king. So the question then is, how do you get good quality audio? And let's talk a little bit briefly. Again, we said iPhone, an issue, by the way, great iPhone case my wife got me. Love that. But if you're using an iPhone, for instance, there's no microphone jack. So where is the audio getting into the camera is the basic way to introduce this to you. And there's a few different kinds of microphones, and then there's different kinds of ways to get this into the camera. So, Cliff, let me toss this to you. Can you basically explain to people what is a lavalier microphone and a shotgun microphone? Because those are kind of the two main ones I would imagine that people are going to be running into.
I knew you were going to ask me that question. I have my lav downstairs. I don't have it with me right now.
I can pull it up while you're talking.
Oh, okay, sweet. So Seth is going to demonstrate for me, but a lavalier microphone is a mic that you can wear on your body, on your shirt. And it's something that is nondescript, it's discreet, and it picks up sound very closely. And the difference between that and a boom mic is that sometimes you have a boom mic and it's going to get a shadow or something like that, where a lav mic, you never have to worry about shadow or anything like that. You have a shotgun mic. It's omnidirectional, but you have to get right up in somebody's face to get it, whereas the lav mic you're going to have right on you, so you're not going to get a lot of room tone, which is, the echo that you get in a room, like what you probably hear Seth and I now. You hear some echo tone. Seth's now got the shotgun mic, and they can be omnidirectional or unidirectional in terms of a pickup pattern, which is where it's finding the sound from. So it's a very sensitive mic. It's a very good mic for going out in the field and getting some audio. But in terms of doing an interview, I would recommend a lavalier mic or a handheld mic.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that, the lavalier mic is definitely if you're doing interviews with people. And so the thing about the lavalier mic, basic thing when you look at cameras, the very next level up on cameras have a mic inline, okay? And to spell this out for people that aren't familiar, it looks just like your little headphone jack. It's really the small, thin cable. That's the mic in. That's where your lavalier is going to be. Let me see if I have the end of this here. It looks like this, right? Now, when you get to the next level is when you start dealing with something called XLR cables and XLR inputs, and this scares people off, but it's not as hard as you'd think, actually. So, Travis, if you're there, why don't you talk a little bit about XLR, explain what that is for people that maybe aren't as familiar with that terminology itself.
XLR is really just it's a better quality connection than your little stereo mini plug. It's a balanced audio, which means it's less prone to noise and interference. It's yeah, exactly like he's showing you there. It's three-prong. It's the XLR. It's a left transmitter, a right transmitter, and a ground, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's when you get into XLR, it's only actually carrying one channel of audio. So as Cliff's pointing out there, you'll have two XLR inputs, one for channel 1 or the left channel, and one for channel 2 or the right channel. It allows you to have your wireless lavalier plugged in and your shotgun mic at the same time, and you can record two separate channels of audio.
And the thing this brings up too is when you're probably going to run into this, if you're getting into video production, is you want to shoot a lecture or a speaker at an event, and they're going to say, can I get the audio from the PA system? And the easiest way to do that is you'll be able to get an XLR out and be able to put that into your camera. That's kind of where you're probably going to be introduced to it. Now, you might say, you might have a camera kind of like this one, like the one I introduced is the lower level, and say, well, where's the XLR input? There isn't one here. How am I going to get the audio in? Well, the beauty is there are ways to do it. You can actually have cables that convert XLR into a smaller cable to fit. As well, there's something that I really like for lower level cameras here. It's called the DXA2T. And this actually can clip onto a lower level camera, and you can put your audio in here, and then you actually have mixing levels on the back, and you can mix it to get in. This runs about $200. So there are affordable ways to do this. So when you're thinking about audio next, first you want to make sure you have a mic in. That's what your mid-level cameras are going to have, because that's going to help you get audio from a microphone rather than just a general microphone built into a camera, which is generally a wider direction. But even then, XLR is really when you get the best audio, and you're going to see lower-level cameras even starting to have that more. One of the reasons I love the camera that I have, the X-A10, is that it has this whole handle is a breakaway handle, and it's got the audio ports right here. So I can break this off and just use the internal, or the mic is a very small hole right here. You probably can't even see that. I guess you can. So that's kind of something to think about when you're thinking about audio. Lavaliers, interviews, basically is ways to think about it, and shotgun microphones, we call it, that sit on top of the camera. That's for events when you're out and about, when you're moving, obviously. And then you're going to get down the road into things like wireless lavalier microphones if you want to mic someone and have them moving or walking around. That's when you kind of get some really cool shots. If you ever hear really crisp audio, but someone's in the middle of a crowd and they're walking or moving, that's how it's all done, and that's kind of where you can start to have a little bit more complex shots and have a little bit more fun. We have, tripods are basic. You want to always be on a tripod whenever possible. It's going to stay stable. But let me talk to you guys about lighting, because when you think about lighting for a camera, first off, you can definitely use natural light whenever possible, and you can survive on just natural light a lot, actually. But there's different kinds of lighting. So I'm wondering, Travis, if I can toss to you, if there's what are your thoughts on lighting? Do you have a preference? I know there's like different kinds of lighting, LED, tungsten. Do you have any thoughts?
I have my lighting kit that I take with me. It consists of one light, and it's a Lowell Rifa light. I wish I would have brought it out now for the thing. It basically pops out. It's got the light inside. It's really quick to set up. It's like setting up an umbrella. It'll click into place. You put the front on, and it's a nice, soft, diffused light for shooting an interview. That being said, I've found myself using my lights less and less, and using available light, an existing light, just to create kind of a more documentary, a more, authentic look and feel. I've tried to, on a lot of our projects, I guess, I've tried to lower the quality factor so it doesn't look so slick and polished and marketing-wise, make it look a little more authentic.
Right.
So I've cut down my lighting use a lot, but the Lowell Rifa I will highly recommend as a $400 or $500 light that you can use in a lot of different situations.
Yeah, and on that point, you can get really creative with natural light. If you have blinds in the room or you have some drapes in the room, you can close those, turn the interior lights on, and that sort of thing, and face them into the sun and whatnot. I actually bought, when I got hired by Xavier, I actually ended up buying a light kit for around the same $400 or $500. I went the CFL route. So where a rifle light is a hot light, so you're going to feel a little bit of heat from that light. What I ended up getting was CFL. So you have your typical CFL bulb, which you're probably used to in your house. It looks like this. Well, in my kit, I have a CFL bulb that looks like this. So it is on steroids. It's incredible. It puts out a lot of light. Now, something else about lighting is lighting temperature. This is more of a sunlight or a blue light, and indoor light or tungsten light is more of an orange light or a warm light. On my camera, what I use now instead of a hot light is an LED light. Very small, very compact. It's battery operated, and it lasts forever because it's LED. It pulls very little energy, and it's pretty doggone bright. So if you're 3, 4, 5 feet away, it looks just like a normal light, and it's going to throw very, very nicely for an interview in a dark room that you don't have any light.
Great. Now, we're going to talk in a minute about software solutions, about different editing softwares, what you want to use. But we're talking a lot about this production stuff, and there's some great comments going on in the Twitter stream as well. So I want to talk about production tips first. I want to talk about the things you need to know. So we're going to kind of do a little round the horn about production tips, and we're going to share what we think you need to know. So I'm going to share the first one, which is just telling you what B-roll is. It's a term you need to know, which basically means background video, and it means when you ever see an interview of someone and then while they're talking, you start seeing shots of an event or other things that are going on. That's basically B-roll. So my tip for you for getting B-roll is to understand that you want to shoot everything in sequences. So what that basically means is if you're shooting a scene of a cook in a kitchen, for instance, a basic way to think about this, let me see if I can pull up an example if I have one here, and unfortunately, it looks like I don't. That's okay. The idea is you want to have like a wide shot of the cook, and then you want like a mid-range shot, and then a close-up shot of their face or of their hands moving. Anytime I shoot anything, I always shoot these so I have multiple shots lined up. The beauty is when you go to edit then, you have all these nice little sequences that you can do where it's someone cooking and then it's a close-up of their hands. Isn't that? Never just shoot one shot. When I started with video way back in college, the problem I ran into was I forgot about that a lot, and I would shoot all these shots from the same zoom length, basically. It was all the same wide shot of a room. Don't do that. Definitely think about if you shoot something, shoot it 3 different ways at least, and do that for everything. Then when you get to edit, you're going to have a ton of different content that you can use. So that's my production tip. Let me toss it to Travis. Give me some production tips, or at least one, and then we'll throw it to Cliff after that.
The first thing I tell anyone who's about to go out on a shoot for the first time, don't use your zoom and don't pan or tilt. Just lock in your one shot, lock in a shot, and shoot it for at least 10 seconds. Stop your tape or stop recording, frame up your next shot, record it for 10 seconds because people tend to get way, way too happy with the zoom and the pan, and they forget to lock it down and get a solid shot, and there's nothing you can use when you're editing. Don't zoom, don't pan, don't tilt.
I don't really want to jump in before Cliff because I know he's got to go to this, but I cannot back that up enough. When people get excited about shooting video, they go and they hold it in their hand and they run around and they do all these. Those are called cutaways. And yes, they're fun, but you use them so much less than you possibly think. When I was first getting out, I'd get back to the editing room and all of a sudden I'd have like 30 different cutaways. Cutaways are, zooming out of a shot real quick or panning off to the left or right. Those are kind of transition shots. You use them very infrequently, and when you do, they're very short amount of time. I would end up with like 30 of those and like 2 regular shots. I totally agree. Lock it on the tripod, and the 10-second rule is great because a lot of times you think it's a long time, but it's not. Always give yourself breathing room on the beginning and the end of the shot for when you edit. Awesome advice. Cliff, keep it coming. Give me a production tip.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. Lock it down. Hold your shot. If you have a moving shot, think of stability. Do it on a tripod. Do a nice, smooth flow with a little bit of tension on your tripod. But the money shot is going to be a lockdown shot. That's going to help you tell the story. And also think about telling that story or advancing the story through your B-roll shots, because a lot of times somebody that you're going to interview they're going to scratch their nose, they're going to move funny, and that's not something that you want to use on your video. So plenty of cover because you can never have enough cover shots or B-roll.
That's really good advice, Cliff, because one thing is, now, again, I'm talking a lot of this about one of the basic types of videos, which is sort of an interview video, which I imagine a lot of people in higher ed do. You interview a faculty member, and then you're doing like B-roll of their research, and you're putting a little recap piece together. What Cliff talked about, too, is really important, is that you use that B-roll to layer over edits. So you have a faculty member that says something really good for 10 seconds, and then they stumble and they say something else good later. Well, if you have video to put over that, you can combine two separate quotes to be one soundbite. And we do that all the time. I mean, I was just editing video last night We had Mitt Romney on campus on Tuesday, and I edited one person's soundbite. I'm not kidding. I used like 5 different answers from them and combined it to one and was able to layer it with B-roll so nobody knew. It sounded totally like he said one clear sentence, and I was actually kind of picking exactly what I wanted, and that's really key. Another piece of advice that Travis, please jump in.
Another thing on that, Mallory Wood just mentioned it on the back channel. Also, if you're in a room getting an interview, get 10 seconds of room tone. Get 10 seconds of no one talking, just the noise of the room, and that'll help cover up those little audio blips when you're editing a stumble out of a soundbite.
That is so huge. That is so huge. And I'll be honest with you, that is a lesson I learned a little late. And the reason he's talking about room noise is that if you're editing 2 sound bites together a little different, you're going to hear a little hiccup, like a little bump when you're listening. But if you have room noise, it's just you think a room is quiet, but it's not when you record it. There is a small, soft kind of a hum or a buzz to a room. You put that under, so you have like one sound bite, other sound bite, and then this room noise. That makes it totally smooth. Great tip on how to cover that. Really good. The next tip I'm going to say is when you're interviewing people, always think about what's in the background. A lot of times people will put somebody up against a wall. You don't want to do that. You want depth of field behind somebody. You want maybe a corner. You want a nice background. So people don't think about this a lot, but this is what makes videos really, in my opinion, attractive, really smooth and crisp, is when you look at, I'm just using this as an example again because I just watched a bunch of culinary videos, but when you look at a shot of a chef and behind him is a row of counters and people are working or food's out or things, thinking about what's in the background rather than putting someone directly up against a wall. In higher ed, what's that mean? It means pull your faculty member closer to the camera and put their side of their office with bookcases off in the background so you have at least a little bit of a library vibe. Think about that with interviews because you always see interviews with bad backgrounds. It doesn't have to be that way. Move people. Ask them if they can go to a conference room down the hallway or use someone else's office. Think about those kind of things.
Absolutely, and don't shoot with light in the background so you blow out. Faculty always want to have their backs to the windows for some reason. Here at Xavier, everybody sits with their back to the window. I don't know why. And they always want to shoot at their desk with the light in the background. And I'm like, no, we have to go somewhere else. It's just.
Mm-hmm. That is really good advice. If you have,
and also,
please, back to you.
I have a big line here, so I always think about background. See, this doesn't look good for a background-wise, but this is all I got right now.
This is a good example. So now Cliff is in his office. Let's pull this back up. He's in his office now. He's got a cubicle line in his head. He's got 2 lights. So you see these lights over his shoulders why he's kind of almost being washed out a little bit. Now let's pull up Travis, who's a little bit closer to the camera, and the depth of field he has by having editing equipment in the background. His head is right basically in the corner of a room. This is the kind of thing that these little elements add a little bit, actually. So it's a kind of a nice little example even to watch just here with this show. That's a little bit something that helps too. So
thanks, Seth, for pointing that out. Thanks, I appreciate that.
My apologies, man. I gotta point something out. But my other point I'll toss out to you guys too is this is just a broader piece of advice, which Cliff was talking about. You got to take charge, ask somebody to move. That's my biggest advice actually with video production. Is it's up to you to get what you need. Just last week I was at a shoot down in New Jersey, and it was a great interview, and within the first 5 minutes I realized, oh no, there's a reflection off the person's glasses, and it wasn't huge, but it was enough that it was bothering me because they had shifted essentially a little farther down, and I stopped the interview. In mid-sentence I said, can you take off your glasses? They said, okay. I said, can we go back and redo this? And I said, because I could move on and say, oh no, there was some reflection on their glasses, but you have to go the extra mile while you're shooting so you have the better footage when you're editing. You're always going to love yourself when you're editing if you went the extra mile, if you shot too much. That's the other tip. You can never shoot too much B-roll, ever. It's not possible. You always want to have more options on the editing floor than less.
Producers always have the saying that, we'll fix it in post, we'll fix it when we're editing. Editors always say, let's fix it in pre-production. Let's fix it before we even shoot, because then it won't be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, I totally agree with that.
It saves you a whale of a lot of time.
And I got to pull it real quick. Mallory Wood has some great comments here as well, just saying, best way to teach yourself what type of shots work or don't work is watch TV and pay attention. That's actually really, really good advice because you all watch TV, probably you watch movies. These things are being done all the time. When you see an interview that you like, think about what's in the background. Think about why. Think about if it's aesthetically pleasing. These kind of things make a big difference in general. So the next tip I'm going to say for production stuff is always have an idea with what you're looking for at the end game first. So I'm going to toss to both of you guys. Let's start with I'm going to pull up Cliff. Cliff, when you're shooting a video, do you have an idea of how you want it to look first? And the reason I ask is because in higher ed, if you're getting into video and you're not an official videographer, a lot of times you're going to have a supervisor that says, go shoot this event. And there's no talk about, well, are we doing the whole event? Are we doing a 3-minute recap video? What are we doing? How important is it to kind of have a production plan and at least have a vision of what the final product should be looking like?
It's imperative to have an idea before you go in to shoot something on what you want coming out of it. Because if you're going in blind and don't know what you're going to get out of it, then you really don't know what to focus on when you're shooting, and you're just going to shoot a lot of stuff. And then the problem is bringing it back and trying to piece it together into a cohesive line of thought going forward. So, if someone comes at you and says, hey, I want you to go shoot this, ask them, well, what do you want with it? How long do you want it? Do you want an interview afterwards if it's an event or something like that? And then say, look, have you seen something online or somewhere else that you might want this to look like? It doesn't hurt to have a baseline to go off of.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Travis, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
To a point, yes. I think the clear focus of, don't tell me to go cover commencement ceremonies knowing you really only want to focus on one student who may have had an interesting story through their time at the university. But as far, I tend to shoot everything as straight as I can. Nothing's worse than someone bringing me footage saying, can we put this together into a nice feel-good piece? And then you look at the footage and they lit it really bright and overblown and kind of yellowish like traffic, and it's shot with the wrong feel for what they end up wanting to do with it. You can do all that kind of stuff while you're editing. Shoot it fairly straight. If you don't have a good idea of what they want with it, shoot it fairly straight. And you can always edit fast, add faster music, do a little zoom and crop on the shots to give it a different feel if that's what you want later.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really if you shoot something with a lot of snap zooms and all over the place for a really fast piece and decide you want to slow it down, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, those really, really good points. And guys, as we're talking about all this, I just want to highlight something that I've been doing video for a while, not nearly as long as the two guys who are on this show today with me. But even still, some of my most successful videos have been done in the most basic formats. I had a camera that I had inherited at UCLA. I shot a straight-on shotgun microphone, because I didn't have a lav at the time, interview in a bland conference room with a guy up against a wall, and I landed on the homepage of YouTube. Now, granted, that was 2008, a little bit of a different time at YouTube, and I'm not proud of it either. But the reality is, at the end of the day, too, it's what's happening inside the video. So go out there and shoot and try this stuff. Have a plan, see what you can do. I'm going to toss this as a more open-ended question to both you guys. But, you'll have to agree. I started off, I taught myself, I just went and shot. But the only way you learn is by shooting and wanting to try new things. And you'll find that I think the only way you're going to get really where you want to be is just to shoot, shoot, shoot.
Absolutely, no question about it. The more you shoot, the better you get. The more you write, the better writer you are. The more you draw, the better artist you become. It's one of those subjective arts, if you will, that the more you do it, the better you get.
Now, now we're going to kind of back up a little bit from these tips, and I want to talk about the next step. We talked about hardware, talked about cameras. Again, the bottom line is whatever you got, you can make it work, but it's important to understand keeping your camera stable, utilizing natural lighting, and it's important to understand audio and how you're going to be capturing audio. That's really going to be key. But let's say you get all this footage. Well, then how are you going to edit it? Obviously, you can do PC or Mac. Those are your hardware questions, but the next is your software solution. So the first one I'm going to start off is just by tossing it to you guys and say, let's start with Travis. You tell me, man, how do you edit? What is your software of choice at the moment that you are using?
I use Final Cut 7. And the studio package that came with that, with soundtrack and motion and compressor. I really like Final Cut Pro 7. I don't plan on moving to the new version of Final Cut Pro. When the time comes that I'm forced to upgrade, I'll look at a different platform. But right now, I really like it's a really powerful suite of all the different applications together.
Great. And Cliff, what about you?
I'm a Final Cut Pro guy as well. Here we're on 6 on my laptop. When I go out in the field, I'm on 7. I was an Apple fanboy and I was a Final Cut Pro fanboy, and I bought X, and it was an absolute horrific experience. If you've ever followed my tweets when I tweet about Final Cut Pro X, it is awful.
Well, let's talk about Final Cut Pro X, because That is what I exclusively use here at SNHU. And the reason is, and
Poor,
this is something
poor
that's important
thing.
people to know. So mind you, guys, we're all
I'm movie pro.
yeah. Well, so we're all big Final Cut fans. I mean, I really do think for video production, there's nothing better than having a MacBook Pro. You can edit on it. You can be out in the field. You can do a lot more than you could ever imagine. Using that with Final Cut, I would say without a doubt, is my best recommendation. You do have Premiere. You do have other software solutions. What I'd say is see what your school can get you. If they'll let you get anything, go for it. Get Final Cut 7. But there's something to keep in mind. Final Cut 10 is the new Final Cut. It's got a lot of bugs. It's very different. But here's the thing people don't realize. It's the only one you can use on the newest computers with Lion. New Macs with Lion cannot install Final Cut 7. They have aged it out. And this is why here at my new job, I ran a situation where I have a brand new laptop with Lion on it. Awesome. Who doesn't want a brand new laptop to get going with video? And all of a sudden, I can't install Final Cut 7. I have to use Final Cut 10. And I've been using Final Cut 10. It's been a learning curve. It's okay. If you're getting into video, actually, you'll probably enjoy it. But it's very difficult to transition to. At the end of the day, Final Cut 7 to me is no question the best. But I've used iMovie for projects as well. And when I first started out, I won't lie, I even used Windows Movie Maker a little bit. Depending on how simplistic what you're doing is, you can get away with a really rudimentary software.
Yeah, again, it's all about telling the story. So, just as long as you have a program that you can go and piece some pieces of video together, it really doesn't matter. Final Cut Pro X is, it's more, I think it was Apple's foray into more of a prosumer again, attempt to bring in a lot more people into their realm. The only problem with the Final Cut Pro 10 is that you can't bring your old programs into it, or your old Final Cut Pro 7 projects, and that's what burned me on it, and that's what burned a lot of old editors on it, is because I have old projects sitting out there. I'd love to use it, but I can't. So I'm still with 7 right now.
I agree. Now, what are your thoughts? Let me pull Travis up, and then I'll throw it back to you, Cliff, as well. What are your thoughts on as far as hardware? When I was at UCLA, we had the Big Mac G4. I think it was G4s at the time. But it seems you can do pretty much everything on a MacBook Pro these days. What are your thoughts, though? If someone out there is watching and their office is saying, okay, we're willing to invest a little bit, get invested in video, what would you recommend? Can they do it all with a laptop, or should they look at getting something bigger?
Depends on what they want to do. Can they do it all with a laptop? Probably. Can they do it better on the Mac Pro Tower, which is what's there now? Yes. Plus the other thing that the Mac Pros offer, which is what I use here, is expandability. If you want to add more hard drives, one thing a lot of people won't realize until they've tried it and failed is a FireWire camera connection does not always play nice with a FireWire hard drive connection. Video does not like USB connections, even though USB 2.0 is faster than FireWire. Video doesn't like it because video requires a constant stream, and USB sends information in packets or bursts. So if you're using video, a FireWire hard drive and a lot of USB hard drives are not an option. So I like the Mac Pro. You can add processing power, you can add more hard drives, you can add just about anything that comes out right now. So I thoroughly recommend the Mac Pro. A lot of people are going to be able to do what they want to do on a MacBook Pro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a good starting out point for a lot of people. Now, let's shift the conversation one more time. Again, guys, our recommendation. I think most of higher ed that I know is a Mac Final Cut kind of family going on. It doesn't have to be, again, but that's definitely what a lot of us are using. But let's talk about distribution, because this, I think, is the biggest place for opportunity in higher education, is that people are asked to go shoot video, and they want to do it, but the last thing that people think about is how are people going to watch it? Because at the end of the day, why are we doing this if people don't see it, right? But what I see so many times is people in higher ed do all this legwork, and then no one sees the video because there was never a plan for how can we get this video out. So I'll toss this one, let's say first to Cliff. Cliff, what are your thoughts on shooting video? How important is it to have an idea ahead of time with how people are going to see it, if having a distribution plan, whether it's putting it to YouTube, or is this going to be embedded into a news story, or go out with an alumni magazine? Can you just shoot for shooting's sake, or is it important to kind of have an end game in mind?
Well, again, it depends on what they send you out to shoot. If it's going to be an interview and where it's going to be, we upload all our stuff to YouTube. So distribution-wise, we send it to YouTube, and then we repurpose it back through Facebook, back through our newsletters, and back through all that stuff. So I just shoot standard 1920 by 1080 on all my stuff, and then we reduce it down from there in terms of pixel aspect ratios.
Okay. And Travis, what are your thoughts on getting stuff out there?
Yeah, we're the same. We shoot everything in high def. We everything we do is uploaded to our YouTube channel. I think the way you use the channel is actually a whole other topic of conversation. But yeah, we repurpose everything from our YouTube original. We'll embed it in our news posts on the news page. We'll post it to Facebook, but it's all hosted on YouTube because you can see it on virtually any mobile device. And I'm interested to hear from anyone else watching. You know, we hear all these horror stories. Oh, but all the high schools block YouTube, and all of our recruitment videos aren't getting seen. Of all the research we've done, we hear of this. It's like an urban legend. We hear of all these things all the time, of all these high schools blocking YouTube, but no one we've ever spoken to has had an issue seeing our videos that are posted on YouTube. But the YouTube channel, quickly, is a very powerful tool too. We have ours set up with, you know, our news playlist, feature playlist. We've got a playlist for all the different departments in the college. And we've got one, it's a student playlist where students submit their videos of what they're working on in class or research projects. And we curate a playlist just of student-generated content that sits right in there next to the dean's vlog and all the other things. So I really like the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's definitely the place to go. Now I'm going to say this about distribution. I'll try to share this when we post this recap, but whenever I'm asked to go shoot a video, what I'll always do is I'll sit down with people asking, and I'll go over several things. I'll say, what are you looking for? What are the goals for the video? And where are we going to distribute it? And who is the potential audience? And I have a little checklist that I use. And it's really good to get people thinking about this. It's okay just to shoot an event because we need to archive it. It's important. And that's a very valid reason to get a camera out there and make it happen. But it's also really good to think ahead of time on how we're going to put this content out there. Because so often I see really great videos produced, but the dots aren't connected. The key is leveraging the work you've done once so the video is seen many times. That means coordinating with people on campus, getting alumni organizations to tweet it out, making sure that it's in different magazines, different newsletters, different departments. Make sure that every person that potentially could be an advocate for your video and share it does. Because the reality is, you still need really good content today. You're helping people by saying, here's a great video you may want to share. So make sure to make allies on campus and think about how you can distribute that. That's really important, I think, with getting really good videos in front of the right people. Now, as far as video 101 is concerned, guys, what are your takeaways with people that are watching this, getting into video maybe right now? Let's start with the first round of takeaways. We're going to do a few. The first round. What is your advice directly to the person watching that doesn't really have video experience but wants to get into it? Let's start with you, Travis. What would you say to the person watching that says, I want to get into video, but I haven't done it yet?
Practice. Use the tools that you already have. Don't buy anything. Use your phone or your iPod or your digital point-and-shoot camera to shoot some video. Import it into whatever software came on your computer, and just try things out. Try different things, try whatever you can. Spend a weekend shooting pictures of your kid's baseball game or a dance recital or something and put it together. Interview your kids and ask them things and then figure out how to tell the story. The tools are not near as important as the story. Content is king. If you have a good story to tell, you can tell it with sketches that you just take old photos of.
Sure. Cliff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if you don't have any equipment, walk over to the media center at your school. Ask them, look, I'm about to set up or I'm about to start doing videos. Can I check out a camera and can I use one of your computers in here and go out and shoot, bring it back, ask them how to load it in, and, just be a student for a while, hang out, spend some hours over there. And just like Travis said, just go out and shoot, practice, go out and take your cell phone out and practice, and and just keep working at it. And go cheap and work your way up the ladder. Go out and buy a Rebel TI and shoot some video on that, you know.
And you bring up a good point too, that the shift into DSLRs, a lot of people with DSLR cameras, still cameras, shoot amazing video these days. One of the most popular cameras I found with freelancers is the Canon 7D. The challenges with these, and it may be right for you if you're primarily doing still photography, the challenge is you're really going to have to record audio externally. It does not do a very good job of doing internal audio, and then you get into issues of syncing and other things, and all that's fine. And I know, again, I know a lot of freelance videographers that shoot almost exclusively with the 7D or even the 5D, which is a little bit better. The challenge is it takes a little bit more of someone who's a little more experienced to think about syncing audio, those kind of issues, recording audio separately. It's good to work towards, but I would never recommend a DSLR as the primary. Now, the next round of questions for you guys, as we're about to wrap this show up, is one tip about video in higher ed in general. Anything, whether it's navigating higher ed, getting the right story, or anything else. And the reason I bring this up, I'm just going to hammer what everyone's been saying on the Twitter stream, mostly because I'm going first and I can get the easy answer out of the way, which is that it is all about the story, and there are amazing stories happening on campus. One of my proud achievements with video is on Veterans Day 2 years ago when UCLA was featured on the homepage of YouTube saluting us for the work we did with veterans. And the video was me interviewing injured veterans that were able to use our adaptive recreation facilities, using hand cycles, being able to use all sorts of different adaptive sports facilities. The story was moving, and it was shot very, very straightforward. Just like Travis kept talking about, don't put a lot in the way. I used no lighting. I used a small camera on a tripod, just personal interviews, and then just B-roll shots of these soldiers. Very emotional, and allowed them to tell the story. I didn't let the video get in the way. So there's a lot of that in higher ed. There are emotional, cool stories, and when you find them, maybe it is time just to get out of the way and let the story tell itself. But Travis, do you have any higher ed specific advice on maybe finding a good story on campus, making a boring event less boring, or anything else at all in that realm?
Oh, you would come to me first on this one, huh? Cliff, you got anything? Well,
let's pass to Cliff. Let's see what he can pass.
Okay. Like kind of what Seth said, but don't be afraid to let a shot or story breathe a little bit. You know, you want to do so much, and you want to cover so much, and you want to, you shot so much video, and you feel like you have to use all this video. But don't be afraid to let a shot breathe, if you will. You're not required to put a number of different cuts, clips, wipes, or dissolves in there, and don't do wipes, and not the star wipe. But yeah, that's Seth, you were unfair because you went first.
Yeah, fair enough. We can move on to the next, Travis, if you want to pass entirely.
I actually have one, and it kind of goes back again to the story. And I'm curious if you guys, I don't script anything I do. Nothing is ever scripted. I do it. This is back to the whole news background. I interview students, and I find out what the story is from them. I'll interview the faculty, and I'll let them tell the story. I've cut 99% of my voiceover out of all my videos, and I just let the subjects tell the story. I think the big thing is don't say, well, we're really wanting you to say this. Yeah. No, because then it's not their story. It's your story. It's your script.
No, that's amazing.
Interview them. Have a conversation. Take them out of or not take them out of it, but take yourself out of it. Don't have them look off camera at you instead of looking into the camera telling their story like this. Have them talking to you, and just get them to forget about the camera, forget it's there, ask them questions, and find out what their story is, and then put it together.
That is awesome advice. I can't agree more. I'm going to go a little bit farther even on that and say, agreed, I almost never do videos with voiceover. I avoid it whenever possible. I think there's ways you can do it just with sound bites and with B-roll. Now, when you're interviewing people, I totally agree. I do not script anything I do ever, but what I do is I make a list of what do I want them to tell me about. And that way, it's always good to go in with a list, not just of questions, but what am I looking for? I want them to tell me this story about this. I need to know, why is this research important? And have those lists, however they say it is up to them, but it's definitely good to make sure that you have down, I need to cover these points. And finally with that, this is my biggest interview tip ever, is don't be afraid to coach someone you're interviewing a little bit early. Like Travis is saying, get them comfortable with the camera. My first 3 or 4 questions are always throwaway questions. How are you doing today? Tell me a little bit more about your department. Let them get comfortable. Let them forget the camera's there. Definitely important. And the last one is, early on, get them used to answering your questions by almost restating the question. So if you say, why is the work that you're doing so important? They don't just say, it's really great because, instead the answer is, the reason the work we're doing is so important is, And that's why those first few questions in an interview, you can always get somebody comfortable, get them used to giving you an answer that reframes the question, because when you're editing, that's what matters, because otherwise you have no context to the answer they're giving. It's a really important lesson that, man, Cliff's nodding his head, I learned the hard way after getting a lot of interviews where people were answering things yes or no. That's another one. Always avoid yes or no questions. Why is the best word ever? Why is the research you're doing so important? Why are we so excited to be here today on campus? Why is this event, important to the community? Why is one where people cannot get away without saying this event is important because it opens up? It's not a yes or no. It's really good advice. So Cliff, any other tips or tricks before we sign this show off as a Video 101 case closed?
Good luck.
Nothing fast.
Don't forget to, nothing fast. Good luck, and and we're here. Don't be afraid to go to any of the links that we share, and just all the information is out there, man. I mean, that's how I've learned half my graphic design work and half my motion and animation work is just by going and being a student of your art.
Love it, Cliff. Thank you for being on the show, man. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Seth.
I'm gonna throw it to Travis now, man. Travis, what are your thoughts? Well, we're having a few audio issues, so great advice to people. You're gonna run into this stuff. Be ready to be on the ground and work through it.
Right. Actually, my original news director for my first news position, her philosophy was decrease the F-up factor. Take anything you don't need out of the loop. So we're hearing audio noise, and I'm thinking, that's why you should use a hardwired mic if you're sitting down doing an interview instead of a wireless mic. So remove anything that can mess you up if you don't need it. There's no reason to be wireless when they're sitting still. But gosh, so many tips. I guess one of the big things is use the online resources. Get a couple of books. The online resources are amazing, from discussion groups and forums. Especially the Apple support forums are amazing. That's how I learned Final Cut Pro. When I started doing online editing, I went to a 2-week Avid training school that Fox sent me to, and all these things. And then when it came right down to learning Final Cut Pro, I taught myself the differences in the Final Cut Pro interface by going on that user group, and I would just spend an hour a night reading different posts, and it got to the point where I became the guy that people were asking questions. And there's some amazing people that are still hanging around on those forums answering questions. One thing you'll learn in video, you're going to have to render at some point, and when editors render, they go on these discussion groups and they answer questions. So use those resources. There's some great books out there, and just get to know your software, get to know your hardware. Take your camera home on the weekend and shoot stuff around the house and figure out things that look cool, things that work cool.
I cannot agree more. Really great advice from both of you guys. I mean, the fact is today, guys, that video is more powerful than ever. It's being watched more and more online. It's a whole conversation. We have to have these guys on for a video 201, because just talking about video online, compression techniques, everything else, there's so much that we can get into. So for this, I can say video is everywhere. YouTube's the second largest search engine, but more important than anything, it's an emotional opportunity to tell someone's story, and it can be very moving. Just like a really good book or anything else, video can touch people in a way that's really amazing. And the best part is, in 2012, the only barrier to entry for video production is you. Because you can do it with any tool that you need, and you can do it right now however you want to. The only barrier to producing great videos is you. If you want to do this, you can. As Travis said, the resources are online. I taught myself Final Cut by watching YouTube videos and reading blogs. It can be done. The resources are free. The tools are all around you. Just try it and have fun. If nothing else, I can't stress this enough, it's a really great tool to have in your belt, even just on a professional development side. If you're a writer, or if you're in web or doing anything else, to be able to say, oh, I can also do this, that's great. And if at the end of the day you capture an important story and you tell it, that's really important too. And if you made it this far on the show, I know you guys are passionate about Video 101, and I really hope that we can continue to bring better information. That's why I'm going to put Travis on the spot. You said earlier that you would produce more video tips and little tutorial videos for people, Higher Ed Live viewers that are interested in learning more. So now that you're on air, will you officially commit to that so people can keep getting great tips and resources on this subject?
I'm excited to join the Higher Ed Live network as a vlogger. Quick little every 3 to 4 weeks, I'm hoping to be posting a new little video production 101, 201, 301 tip. Everything from storytelling to editing to compressor presets to all kinds of different stuff. Just hopefully I can help some of the people that have helped me and help some of the folks that are just getting started.
I love it. And guys, in the video world, that's what we call the reveal at the end. That's right, because we just put the twist. Travis is coming on. He's going to join Higher Ed Live. He's going to be a vlogger. He's going to be sharing tips and resources with you. First off, round of applause, man. I can't wait to have you part of the family, have you sharing this stuff. You have such a wealth of experience, and talking to people like you and Cliff, it's so awesome, because the reality is, if this is the way, I'm going to say one thing. In higher ed, I found, going to conferences, we have a community that wants to share and help each other, even if you're competition. And originally, I always used to say I have never been experienced in industry quite like that, but I disagree. There is one, and it is the video production world, that people that shoot video want to help each other, and it's pretty exciting. That if you want to do this, there's opportunities. And for you guys watching, if you want to do this, we're going to all be here to help you. Travis is going to be posting more updates. We're going to have to have both Travis and Cliff on again for a longer show. We can get more specific. As much as you guys want to learn, we're here to teach you. So, Travis, thanks not only for offering to do that, but even just for coming on the show today and sharing some knowledge.
You bet.
And
you bet.
And Cliff, one last time, thank you to you, sir, as well, for coming on, being part of the show.
Anytime, Seth. Thank you very much. I've always wanted to do it, so appreciate it.
Well, I'm so happy to have you guys both on the show. And guys, that is Video Production 101. Just wait for what we bring you guys next. This is Higher Ed Live. It's 2012, and this is going to be a really big year. If you ever want to see us cover anything, you let us know. We work for you. We want to cover interesting and innovative topics. Thank you guys for watching. HigherEdLive.com's got all your resources. It's going to have more ramped up text posts, multiple text posts every week. We're bringing on more and more writers. We're trying to make a difference, and we know that you guys are too. If you are deciding to pick up a camera and shoot video because of today's show, let us know. We would love to see it. And again, any of the topics you want to see us cover, we are absolutely here to do it. This has been Higher Ed Live. Thank you guys. I hope you all have a great night.